We've all been there, that moment when life feels like it's closing in, when the pressure is unbearable, and stress becomes the default setting. We tell ourselves, if I could just get through this, then I'll finally be at peace. But have you ever noticed that when one problem disappears, another one takes its place? That peace you were chasing, it's always just out of reach. And so we run. We run from stress, from discomfort, from uncertainty, believing that if we can just fix everything around us, then we'll finally feel okay inside. But what if I told you peace isn't something we find, it's something we choose? And the best part? You don't have to wait for the world to change. You can start now. We grow up believing that peace is something we either have or we don't. Right? We grow up believing that peace is something we either have or we don't. That some people are just naturally calm, naturally unbothered, naturally at ease, while others are doomed to live in constant stress, worry, and anxiety. But that's not true. Peace isn't a gift handed to a lucky few. It's not reserved for monks in the mountains or people who have figured out the perfect work-life balance. It's not something we stumble upon when life finally stops being chaotic. Peace is built, it's crafted, it's a skill, just like resilience, patience, or discipline. And just like any skill, it requires practice. Think about it. No one expects to wake up one day and suddenly be physically strong. Without ever lifting a weight, no one assumes they'll just become fluent in a new language without ever studying. Yet, when it comes to inner peace, we treat it like it's supposed to just happen. But peace doesn't happen. Peace is something we create over and over again in the way we choose to think, respond, and engage with the world. Peace is a daily practice. Most people believe that peace comes from the outside in. They think, if I can just fix everything around me, then I'll feel calm on the inside. So they chase it. They chase the perfect job, thinking financial security will bring peace. They chase the perfect relationship, believing that love will finally make them whole. They chase control over people, over circumstances, over the unknown, hoping that once everything is in order, they'll finally be able to relax. But peace doesn't work that way. It's not found in external perfection. It's built from internal stability. Because here's the truth, life will never be perfect. There will always be another obstacle, another challenge, another unexpected turn. If our peace depends on everything around us being calm, we will spend our entire lives waiting for something that will never come. The people who've mastered inner peace aren't the ones with the easiest lives. They're the ones who have learned how to navigate life's storms without letting the storm live inside them. They don't wait for things to settle down before they feel okay. They create peace right in the middle of uncertainty. They practice calmness even when the world is chaotic, because peace isn't about avoiding the storm. It's about learning how to stand in the rain without drowning. The illusion of when everything is perfect. We've all said it at some point. When this situation is over, then I'll be able to relax. When I finish this project, then I'll feel less stressed. When I have more time, then I'll take care of my mental health. But what happens? The situation ends and another one begins. The project gets completed and a new deadline appears. The schedule clears up and we find a dozen other things to fill it with. We tell ourselves that peace is just around the corner, but the corner keeps moving. That's because peace isn't something we reach, it's something we practice right now. It's choosing in this moment to slow down, to breathe, to separate what we can control from what we can't, to let go of the illusion that happiness exists somewhere else, and embrace the reality that we can create it right here. Peace is an internal state, not an external condition. We all know someone who stays calm no matter what's happening around them. They face challenges without panicking. They handle setbacks with grace. They walk through life with a kind of quiet confidence that nothing seems to shake. And we wonder, how do they do it? It's not because their life is easier. It's not because they don't have stress, problems, or fears. It's because they've trained themselves to separate what happens around them from what happens inside them. They've realized that peace isn't about waiting for life to be easy. It's about deciding that no matter what happens, they won't allow external chaos to dictate their internal state. This doesn't mean ignoring problems. It doesn't mean pretending everything is fine when it's not. It means responding rather than reacting. It means choosing perspective over panic. It means recognizing that while we may not control the world, we do control how we show up in it. And that's the difference. The world will always be unpredictable, people will disappoint us, plans will fall apart, unexpected challenges will arise. If our peace depends on external circumstances, we will always feel like we're at the mercy of something outside ourselves. But the moment we decide that peace is an inside job, that it's not found but built, that's when everything starts to change. Because peace isn't given, it's created. And it's created every single day in the choices we make. We have been taught to see emotions as things that happen to us, waves that crash over us, forces that control us, chains that bind us to reactions we can't escape. But emotions are not chains. They are signals. They are messages from our inner world designed to guide us, not control us. Yet instead of listening to them, most of us either suppress them, fearing their intensity, or become prisoners to them, allowing them to dictate our every move. The problem isn't that we feel emotions. The problem is that we misunderstand them. And when we misunderstand them, we either fight them or become enslaved by them. But what if emotions were never meant to be obstacles? What if they were simply tools? What if instead of fearing them, we learned how to work with them? Emotions are not enemies. Somewhere along the way, we were conditioned to believe that certain emotions are bad and others are good. Joy, excitement, love, good. Anger, sadness, fear, bad. And because we believe this, we treat our difficult emotions as problems to be solved rather than messages to be understood. When we feel anxious, we try to push it down. When we feel anger, we tell ourselves we're overreacting. When we feel sadness, we distract ourselves with busyness. We tell ourselves to move on, to cheer up, to just be positive. But emotions don't just disappear because we ignore them. Suppressing an emotion doesn't eliminate it. It only buries it deeper where it festers and grows. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can push it down for a while, but eventually it will come bursting back up, often with even more force than before. Emotions that go unprocessed they find other ways to manifest, sometimes in physical stress, sometimes in unhealthy habits, sometimes in sudden outbursts we don't even understand, because emotions are meant to be felt, not feared. Emotions are information, not instructions. Feeling angry doesn't mean we have to lash out. Feeling anxious doesn't mean we are in danger. Feeling sad doesn't mean we are broken. Our emotions are messengers, not masters. They give us information, but it is up to us to decide what to do with that information. Think about a smoke alarm. When it goes off, it's giving you a signal. It's alerting you that something may need your attention, but just because it's beeping doesn't mean the house is actually burning down. It could just be smoke from the toaster. Emotions work the same way. They alert us to something happening within us, but they don't always mean what we assume they mean. Fear tells us there is uncertainty ahead, but it doesn't mean we have to retreat. Anger tells us something feels unjust, but it doesn't mean we have to explode. Sadness tells us we've lost something important, but it doesn't mean we have to lose ourselves in it. When we take emotions as commands rather than as signals, we let them control us. But when we learn to pause, to step back, to ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? That's when we gain control. Reacting versus responding. There's a difference between reacting and responding. Reactions are immediate. They are knee-jerk. They are driven by impulse, not awareness. Responses are intentional. They are thoughtful. They come from understanding rather than just feeling. When we react, we let the emotion dictate our behavior. When we respond, we use the emotion as data to make a decision. Imagine you're driving and someone cuts you off in traffic. Your immediate reaction might be frustration, maybe even anger. Your instinct might be to yell, to honk, to speed up and get back at them. But if you pause, if you take a deep breath, if you step outside the emotion for a moment, you might realize something. Maybe they're rushing to the hospital. Maybe they didn't even see you. Maybe even if they were just being careless, it's not worth letting them control your mood for the rest of the day. The situation didn't change, but your response did. This is true in every part of life. If someone says something hurtful, you can react with anger, or you can pause and ask, is this about me or is this about them? If you feel anxious before a big decision, you can react by avoiding it, or you can pause and ask, what is this anxiety trying to protect me from? If you feel sad after a failure, you can react by shutting down, or you can pause and ask, what lesson is hidden in this? The pause is where emotional freedom lives. Accepting, not resisting. The more we resist an emotion, the stronger it becomes. Think about a child throwing a tantrum. The more you fight them, the louder they scream. But if you kneel down, acknowledge their feelings, and show them you understand, they begin to calm down. Your emotions are the same way. Instead of resisting them, what if you acknowledged them? Instead of treating them like enemies, what if you treated them like signals? Anxiety might be telling you that you care deeply about something. Anger might be telling you that a boundary has been crossed. Sadness might be telling you that you need time to heal. None of these feelings are wrong. They just are. And when we stop fighting them, because emotions were never meant to control us, they were meant to guide us. We spend most of our lives trying to control things we were never meant to control. We try to control how people see us. We try to control how situations unfold. We try to control the future, predict it, manipulate it, shape it to fit our expectations. And in doing so, we exhaust ourselves. Because no matter how much effort we put into controlling every detail of life, it never quite works the way we want it to. People still disappoint us. Plans still fall apart. The future remains uncertain. And the more we resist this truth, the more frustrated, anxious, and overwhelmed we become. But what if the problem isn't that we don't have enough control? What if the problem is that we're trying to control the wrong things? What if real control doesn't come from gripping tighter, but from letting go? The illusion of control, most of us like to believe we have more control than we actually do. We believe that if we say the right things, people will like us. That if we work hard enough, life will reward us exactly as we expect. That if we plan for every possible outcome, we can avoid uncertainty altogether. But life doesn't work that way. People don't always respond the way we hope. Hard work doesn't always lead to immediate success. Unexpected challenges will always arise, no matter how much we prepare, and yet we resist this truth. We grip tighter, we overthink, overanalyze, overprepare, hoping that this time we'll finally be able to control the outcome. But control is like trying to hold water in our hands. The tighter we squeeze, the more it slips through our fingers. Because the truth is, the more we try to control everything, the more we lose control of ourselves. We become anxious, trying to force outcomes that aren't ours to dictate. We become stressed, obsessing over things that are beyond our reach. We become frustrated, blaming ourselves for things that were never in our hands to begin with. And in that process, we don't just lose control, we lose peace. What you can and can't control. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It does mean we recognize the difference between what we can control and what we can't. You can't control what other people think of you, but you can control how you show up, how you treat others, and how you view yourself. You can't control how a situation unfolds, but you can control your perspective, your response, and your ability to adapt. You can't control whether or not you'll face challenges, but you can control how you handle them, how you grow from them, and how you move forward. Most of the stress in life doesn't come from the challenges themselves. It comes from trying to control things we were never meant to control. But the moment we shift our focus, the moment we stop obsessing over the uncontrollable and start owning what's ours, something powerful happens. We stop wasting energy on things outside our reach. We stop drowning in frustration over things we cannot change. And for the first time, we feel light. Not because the world around us has changed, but because we have. Surrender is not weakness. We've been conditioned to believe that letting go means losing, that surrender means weakness, that to be strong, we must fight, resist, and hold on no matter the cost. But real strength isn't found in resistance. It's found in trust. Letting go doesn't mean you stop trying. It means you stop forcing. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging to things that aren't in your control. Imagine a river. If you fight the current, if you struggle and resist, you exhaust yourself. But if you let go, if you trust the flow, you move with the river instead of against it. This is what surrender looks like. It doesn't mean we stop making efforts. It means we trust that once we've done our part, life will take care of the rest. And in that trust, we find a freedom that control could never give us. The cost of holding on. Think about the things you've been gripping tightly, the need to prove yourself, the fear of uncertainty, the resentment you've carried for too long. What has holding on to these things cost you? Has it brought you peace, or has it drained you? Has it given you more control, or has it made you feel even more powerless? Sometimes the very things we think are protecting us are actually the things keeping us stuck. We hold on to control because we fear what will happen if we let go. We hold on to expectations because we're afraid to trust the unknown. We hold on to the past because we think if we let go, it means it didn't matter. But letting go doesn't mean forgetting, doesn't mean giving up. It means freeing yourself from the weight that was never yours to carry, trusting the process. Letting go is scary because it means stepping into the unknown. It means accepting that you won't always have all the answers, that you won't always be able to predict what happens next, that you won't always get the outcome you planned for. But here's the thing, life has never been predictable, and yet you've made it this far. You've survived every uncertainty, every unexpected challenge, every moment where you thought you wouldn't make it through. And if you look back, you'll see that the moments that shape you the most were never the ones you controlled. They were the ones you surrendered to. Because real control isn't about gripping tighter. It's about trusting that even when you let go, you'll still be okay. We like to think of ourselves as independent thinkers, unaffected by the noise around us. We believe that as long as we are strong enough, smart enough, or disciplined enough, we can rise above any circumstance. But the truth is, no matter how much willpower we have, our environment shapes us. Not just in the obvious ways, where we live, who we spend time with, what we do every day, but in the silent, subtle ways we often overlook. The conversations we hear, the energy we absorb, the habits we witness. These things seep into our minds, influencing how we think, how we feel, and how we see the world. If we are surrounded by negativity, we become more cynical. If we are surrounded by inspiration, we begin to dream bigger. If we are surrounded by doubt, we start to second-guess ourselves. If we are surrounded by action, we become more driven. The world around us isn't just something we observe, it's something we internalize. And whether we realize it or not, it is shaping our thoughts, our emotions, and ultimately our future. The power of influence. Think about the 5 people you spend the most time with, not just physically, but mentally. The people whose voices echo in your mind, the ones whose opinions you value, whose energy you absorb. Are they lifting you up or holding you back? Are they expanding your vision or keeping you stuck? Are they challenging you to grow or convincing you to stay the same? It's often said you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. But this isn't just about people, it's about everything you allow into your mental space. The books you read, the shows you watch, the social media content you consume, the workplace culture you're surrounded by, the conversations you engage in. Every single one of these things is shaping your inner world, whether you're aware of it or not. If you constantly consume negativity, you start to expect the worst. If you are surrounded by people who play small, you start to believe that's all there is. If your environment is chaotic, your mind struggles to find peace. But if you surround yourself with positivity, growth, and encouragement, your mindset shifts. You begin to believe in new possibilities. You start to see opportunity where others see obstacles. You develop the courage to take action, to step outside your comfort zone, to build the life you truly want. The silent influence of your surroundings. Most of us don't actively choose our environments, we fall into them. We inherit them, we adapt to them, but we don't always question them. We don't ask, is this environment serving me? Are these relationships helping me grow? Is this routine making me better, or is it keeping me stuck? And because we don't ask these questions, we end up becoming passive products of our surroundings instead of conscious architects of our lives. It's like a plant. If you plant it in rich soil, give it sunlight and water, it flourishes. If you plant it in dry, rocky ground, it struggles. It doesn't matter how strong the seed is, its growth is determined by where it's planted. We are no different. Your environment shapes your identity. The things we see every day, the words we hear, the habits we witness, these don't just influence our mood, they shape our identity. If we are surrounded by people who prioritize health, we start to see ourselves as someone who values well-being. If we are surrounded by entrepreneurs, we start to think like someone who takes risks and creates opportunities. If we are surrounded by people who settle, who complain, who blame the world for their problems, we start to adopt that same mindset without even realizing it. Because here's the truth. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our environment. If your goal is to be more disciplined, but you live in an environment that encourages distraction, discipline becomes a battle. If your goal is to be more confident, but you are surrounded by people who tear others down, confidence becomes harder to build. If your goal is to be successful, but you spend your time around people who fear failure, success starts to feel impossible. It's not just about having the right mindset, it's about putting yourself in the right environment, one that makes growth the natural outcome, not the constant uphill battle. The energy you absorb. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the energy shift? Maybe it was a workplace where people were disengaged, stressed, and counting down the minutes until they could leave, and without even meaning to, you started feeling the same way? Less motivated, less excited, drained. Or maybe you've been around someone who radiates passion and enthusiasm, and just by being near them, you felt more energized, more inspired, more alive. That's because energy is contagious. If you are constantly surrounded by stress, your body absorbs stress. If you are constantly surrounded by optimism, your mind absorbs possibility. And over time, this affects everything, your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions, your future. Change your environment, change your life. The good news is you are not stuck. You may not be able to change everything about your environment overnight, but you can make small intentional shifts. You can choose to spend more time with people who inspire you. You can choose to consume content that expands your mind instead of keeping you stagnant. You can choose to create a physical space that brings you peace instead of chaos. You can choose to step into environments that challenge you, that push you, that help you become who you are meant to be. Because at the end of the day, your environment is either fueling your growth or holding you back. And the choice of what you allow in, that choice is yours. Your environment is not just where you exist. It is the foundation upon which your thoughts, emotions, and actions are built. It is shaping you, influencing you, and either pushing you toward your best self or pulling you away from it. If you want to change your life, start by changing what surrounds you. Surround yourself with people who challenge and uplift you. Fill your mind with ideas that expand your perspective. Step into spaces that inspire growth rather than stagnation. Because transformation isn't just about changing your mindset, it's about creating an environment where the right mindset becomes inevitable. And when you do that, when you intentionally shape the world around you, something incredible happens. You stop feeling like you're fighting against your circumstances. You stop feeling like success, peace, and fulfillment are an uphill battle. Instead, they become your natural state. Because the right environment doesn't just change how you feel, it changes who you become.